Aside from glycolysis and aerobic respiration, we also have other metabolic pathways. So some of them are designed to metabolize lipids and proteins and even other biomolecules such as the nucleic acids. Now for the lipid and protein catabolism, so for the lipids, these are the fatty acids. So for fatty acids, they are broken down by a process called the beta oxidation. So for the proteins, they are broken down into its constituents, which are the amino acids. So for both of these cases, the catabolism releases energy that can be used for other cellular processes. That is why, aside from carbohydrates, we can actually get energy from other sources. And that is also some of the reasoning behind some of the diet plans. For example, a high protein, low carbohydrate diet. I think that was called the South Beach diet. That was several years ago. That diet emphasizes the use of protein as the alternative energy source instead of carbohydrates. And then the recently popular keto diet, and that is the fatty acid version of the South Beach diet from before, where instead of intaking high proteins, you intake fats. Basically, fats that are healthy fats. They say it's the healthy fats instead of carbohydrates. So you have your energy source as the lipids, and you will be doing rounds and rounds of beta oxidation. Now, a word of caution about the keto diet is that the beta oxidation releases a large amount of free radicals, because this process is basically a really intensive oxidation step for every round of breaking down of your fatty acids. So it releases a large amount of free radicals in the cells. So that's one of the downsides of the high lipid content keto diet. Now for the South Beach diet, which is the high protein diet, the downside here is the high production of urea, which can be toxic to the blood. Now for the other sources, so bioremediation, for the case of microorganisms, we have a bioremediation which uses the unique microbial enzymes to degrade toxic contaminating materials and restore environmental health. So this bioremediation, because in bioremediation you have organic pollutants, and using the metabolic pathways of microorganisms, you can actually degrade the pollutant. And how does it do that? The pollutant serves as their energy source, as the food for the microorganisms. That is why they become processed and degraded by the organism. So, integrated metabolic pathway. So, we have your gluconeogenesis, which is used to generate glucose from pyruvate molecules. So, this is the not exactly the exact reverse, but it operates in the opposite way, or opposite path, or let's say opposite direction as the glycolytic pathway, whereas you have glucose to pyruvate. This one is pyruvate to glucose. That's gluconeogenesis. And then we have amphibolism. This is the interconnected nature of the anabolic and catabolic pathways. So sometimes pathways we really cannot differentiate them, or it's sometimes the line between anabolism and catabolism is different. So some pathways are they degrade, on one hand they degrade metabolic large molecules. On the other hand, as the course of the pathway goes through, they are actually also building up another molecule. So examples of amphibotic pathways, you have pyruvate, pigal, and acetyl-CoA generated during glycolysis and pyruvate oxidation. They can also be used to make amino acid precursors. Because although we see the pathway as somewhat like a straight path, it's actually not. In reality, it's not a straight path. It's just a series of reactions occurring in sequence, but that doesn't mean that the intermediates of those pathways must must go to step number 2. Sometimes they shift to the other path to the other pathway, which is if it was originally a catabolic pathway, they can be also used as the starting materials for an anabolic pathway on a different end. So that is the nature of metabolic pathways. So the intermediates can be shuttled they are not most intermediates are not exclusive to one pathway. They most of the time they share intermediates. So let's in the next part of this the next part of the video we will look at photosynthesis.